I'm Mike Hutjens from the University of Illinois, emeritus status right now. Grew up on a dairy farm near Green Bay, Wisconsin. Got all my degrees from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Pretty much a cheddar head and a Packer fan as far as that goes. Then went in 8 years at the University of Minnesota working as an extension dairy specialist and coached their judging team. And then the last 32 years at the University of Illinois in a teaching and extension program. My topic had to do with looking at the outlook on feed costs, and that's really key now in the industry because milk prices looks like in 2023 may drop 10 to 15%. That's really going to squeeze the profit area. So feed costs make up about 50% of the cost of producing milk, and it's controlled by and large by the farmer, what he raises and what he purchases. So he kind of controls that aspect of his production cost. So we looked at different tools, different recommendations we should be looking at in 2023 when we look at the scenario that we have now on profitability. Well, I think the challenges we're going to see here in the future is going to be relatively high feed prices, depending on weather and growing conditions. So my challenge to my dairy farmers is to raise the best quality and quantity of forages they can raise on their farm because they control those. And usually when you look at forage costs, that's the more economical part of the feeding program. So we might even be looking at rations that are going to be 65% of forages in the feeding program. Another one are feed additives, a very important area. Feed additives like yeast culture and probiotics certainly can affect the performance of the animals. Be sure that we are using those tools at the right time and at the right levels to impact profitability. Parts of the United States had serious drought, therefore it reduced the supply of both forages and grains on some of these farms as well. And then of course we are in an international situation. So we certainly know that the war with Ukraine and Russia has had an impact. We know that crop production in Brazil and Argentina will have an impact as well. We don't control those things, but certainly that is going to be a factor. Inflation is becoming a factor as well in terms of cost of dairy products to consumers. And this last year, the good news is that the dairy income was up 22%. But the amount we ate was down about 1.2%, reflecting the higher price of dairy products. So certainly consumers are still with us, but as we start looking at tighter consumer available dollars, some of the dairy products could be a little bit at jeopardy. The major drivers on the current feed prices is just going to be the demand for those products. For example, we export 18% of our dairy products. And if our dollar goes up in value, or companies or countries don't have the equity, then they will not be purchasing as much dairy product. The same thing applies here in the United States. A high price fertilizer and fuels is going to increase the cost of production of those crops if they're raised on the dairy farm or if we're purchasing them from the marketplace itself. So those are going to be some of the really big factors here. And then of course, what's going on in the world will also have some impact as well. Now to get their best bang for their dollar, I think they're going to be looking at forage production and getting the highest quality and quantity of forages that they can get. Number two, they're going to be smart buyers. So in other words, if markets go down on soybean meal, they need to take advantage of that as well on the feed side. A third area is that there are some programs that you can actually sell your product ahead. So if there is a good margin, you can sell your product ahead, much like corn and soybean producers do, to lock in a potential profit margin as well. One is be aware of the tools. Which tools would you want to use? Which tools are you using and working well, and which ones aren't you using as far as that goes? Number two, we want to be sure that you control the controllables, which is going to be the feed itself. Can't do much with the price of diesel or the price of fertilizer or inflation rates in the world. I can't deal with that. So I'm going to control the controllables on that farm. Number three, my goal is maximum milk yield. I always make more money when I have high producing cows than low producing cows. And in many parts of the United States, we are paid on the components, the pounds of fat and the pounds of protein. And so make sure you're getting the optimum components from your animals as well. And finally, I don't think we can save ourselves by cutting feed costs into profitability. We just need to have high production and good feed efficiency.